Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the J Talk Morning Show. Getting it down in here, and let's crank that down just a little bit. Good morning. Welcome to the J Talk Morning Show. I'm your host, Jay Goff. And so right off the bat, we're going to do this. Everybody raise your cup if you got your little Java in your hand, okay? Little Java in the morning. There we go. All right, so we got TCB in the morning. We're going to be taking care of business this morning. And folks, I am so excited. Let's kill that music right now. Okay, I'm gonna kill that music. I am so excited because this morning I have my first guest on the J Talk Morning Show, and this lady, first of all, she is no stranger to you. She's no stranger, definitely no stranger to me. And if anything, she would say I'm definitely stranger to her, not a stranger, but I'm stranger as I get older. And I'm gonna bring her on in just a few seconds. But I want you to subscribe over to the YouTube channel. Just go to the J Talk Morning Show. If you're not already subscribing, please do go over and do that. And thank you in advance for subscribing. If you already are, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we also have a Facebook page called the J Talk Morning Show that you can catch us there as well. But definitely go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. All right. We talk about life and we talk about leadership. We talk about things that's going to help you have a better life in your personal and your professional endeavors, build better relationships. And that's what the J Talk Morning Show is all about, is helping you to increase your influence and your impact on the lives of other people around you and to have the best life possible. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the wonderful and beautiful and amazing the Mrs. to my Mr., Mrs. Katrina Goff. Hey, are you on?
I am. Good morning.
Okay. So thank goodness things were working out so far on the tech side, because we were playing around with it last night, folks, and trying to figure this out, because it's the first time I've had a guest, and was like, okay, how do we get this picture in picture? And we were playing around with it for a while. I think we were on for almost an hour and a half between figuring out the platform and just talking about what we're going to talk about today. And so the
Which isn't
title.
going to be an hour and a half.
No, it's not going to be an hour and a half. No. At the tops, it's going to be around 30 minutes. And so we have more time to talk about this. I'm actually going to just, I'm going to hush my face up right now. No, well, we're going to jump right into this topic. It's something that's really neat. Is it quiet quitting or loudly living? And this is based on a blog you wrote, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So a blog that you had written, very interesting. And so real quick, I'll share with you what quiet quitting is with our audience, and kind of a perspective of what it originated as and how, and then you can share how you looked at that in a different perspective. And I think people are really going to gain a lot from that. Before we get started, we got somebody on. We got Jerry Gale Mathis is on this morning. Hey, Jerry, it's good to see you, my friend. Good morning. So
Good
it's great to
morning.
have you. So here, let me pop her up there. There it is. All right. So quiet quitting. Quiet quitting refers to what employees do who put no more effort into the jobs that they absolutely necessarily happen. In other words, quiet quitting is just doing enough to keep from getting fired. They can't fire you because you're still producing, but could you be producing better? Could you be showing up more on time? And but what I will say is quiet quitting it can put your head on the chopping block too if you're not careful, because organizations will demand more from you. And this world, everybody's busy, got to get more out with less people, right? So what's happened is this phenomenon called quiet quitting, and people are only doing just what's necessary to get the job done, and they're not going to do more. That's it. They clock in, they clock out.
Would you mind to read that, Jay, that definition that you sent to me last night? Do you have that handy or not?
Yeah, I've got that up here. I basically just kind of summarized it in one quick sentence there. But yeah, it refers to employees who put no more effort into their jobs than absolutely necessary. It's like doing the bare minimum, fulfilling primary responsibilities, but avoiding any extra engagement or enthusiasm. So imagine someone who doesn't stay late. they show up, or who does not stay late, who does not show up early, who does not attend non-mandatory meetings, essentially. They're clocking in and out without going the extra mile. Interestingly, they don't actually leave their position. They continue to collect a salary while quietly disengaging from their work. And I think many of us can think of people that we work with that would fit in that category, and they may not realize that that's what they're actually doing.
It may not be new to them either. It may have been something that they have been engaging in for a long time, a long time. So
Oh, and you're right. And you know what? I think sometimes people see stuff or they read stuff and they learn about something new, and they may have come across this terminology. I first came across it, I think about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, when I read an article, Inc. magazine.
mhm.
So that's where I first came about it. But I think if people came across that terminology, the less engaged, the less initiated, the less motivated individuals, they'll adopt this because this is a new thing, and they can put a name on it. Now, back in the old days, we called it being lazy. Okay. But now we have to have all these fancy little terminologies or whatever, quietly quitting. And, but I think that's what happens a lot in organizations these days. And real quick, shout out to Catherine Ewan. Good morning, Catherine. Good to see you on, my friend. All right. So, Katrina, tell us your take on this. When you wrote the blog, it was very interesting. Tell us your take on this. Share this with the audience and what it is to you, and then your perspective and how you change that, um, that applies to our personal life, how it affects it.
So, one of the things I'd like to point out is there is another side to that. There are the people that are giving, 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 and they are all consumed with their job and their workplace. And they will say yes to every task. They will step up and do things that aren't in their job title or responsibilities to do, and they can just make that their one and only thing. And when they do that, then other areas of their life are suffering, or maybe they have all these goals and projects or things that they want to achieve, but they don't have the time, nor do they have the energy to do so because they are giving so much at work, staying the long hours on emails and doing, things at home, but even have a hard time walking out of the office just because there's stuff there that needs to be done. Maybe someone who's quietly quitting is not doing their part, but I think we need that balance. And so this is where that came from, because that I might tend to be one of those people that have, give a lot at work. And so, I think we have to view that, and from our family's viewpoint too, to see where are we spending our time, just like someone says, show me your bank account and I'll show you what your priorities or or is valuable to you.
Hmm.
Our time is the same way. How are we spending it? And who are we spending it with? And what goals are we achieving? Are we only achieving goals for our employer? So when I was thinking about all of that term quietly quitting, I was thinking about, should some of us be quietly quitting? And I in no way, shape, or form mean that we should not show up and do above and beyond what we're required to do, nor is that even possible with me. But
No, it's
um,
not. It's not.
it isn't. It's not. Yeah. But we also have to understand where that boundary should be. And if we don't set boundaries for ourselves, then people will, when we give more, then they're going to expect us to give more. And we're going to expect ourselves to give more because now we're up leveling always. So I think that quietly quitting can be where we actually live loudly into what our priorities and our goals are for ourselves. And then also we have to think about our family members. What do they need from us? And what have we not been giving to them because we are giving so much at work? And so I actually saw that and thought of that in a way that um, it's not always a bad thing. For some of us, we need to quietly quit some things and stop saying yes to everything and stop
Mhm,
stepping up and saying, "Oh, yes, I'll do that. I can do
mhm.
that. No one's doing that. I'll do that. I'll take that on too." And um, so I really think that for us to meet those goals, whether it's a project or a business that we have, if we worked as hard for ourselves as we work for others, where would we be? For some of us, we would be a lot further on, toward reaching that goal. But sometimes we have to take away to be able to add in more of what's important.
Yes, absolutely, and I agree with you because we only have so many hours in a day, right?
We
Everybody
do.
has the same hours in a day. We all have the same hours in a day, but there are those of us who want to put in, they want to put 6 hours of work into an 8-hour day, and then there's others, hint, hint, that a lot of times will put 10 hours into an 8-hour day, and
Or 12 or
over
14.
exactly, and so there are those. So, and do you think that this is, and folks, please ask your questions. If you got a question or a comment, definitely leave a comment there, and we can approach that as well. Some of those, but do you think some of this is a maybe a personal priorities thing? Do you think it has to do with a person with
I think
priorities in a
that
person's life?
well, I think if we don't set them, for ourselves and decide what our priorities are and block off time for them, then someone else is gonna set the priorities for our life, whether that's, you know, um, a leader, in our job, or someone else that's just, asking you to step up and do this or do that. And if we don't already know ahead of time, hey, that weekend or that day or whatever is off limits, I've got some things I'm working on outside of this, or my family is coming, or there's a family birthday. I think about John Maxwell and how that
Mhm.
is the first thing he does, right? Is he sets his calendar with his family's birthdays and other things that are important. And that's non-negotiable, right? That goes in first. That doesn't go in last. So that's really what priorities are, is making time, right? For the things that are important to us. What are your priorities? If you don't know what they are, then you need to look at that. And if, what are your family's priorities that you should be making your priority as well? Celebrating things with our family is just as important as being there for them in the hard times. And so if we have let other things step in to that time slot of if you have young kids, a game at school or a recital or something like that, if you don't show up for that because you're busy showing up somewhere else, you know, then maybe you need to look at that and ask your family about that. But priorities show up in where you spend your time. And so if you haven't thought of it in that way, you maybe need to, realign.
Yeah, sometimes I talk about, and you mentioned it before. Uh, I can't remember if you said checkbook or
Oh
date
yeah.
book, but
Yeah.
I've sometimes said, if show me your checkbook, your Facebook, and your date book, and I'll tell you your success, potential. And it's so true. Where do we invest our money? Where do we invest our time?
Mhm.
Who are we investing in, and who are we allowing to invest in us? It's a really big thing too. We've got to think about that. Who are we allowing into our lives? We become what and who we surround ourselves with.
Absolutely.
And if you are uh, constantly focused on one area, you're taking away from another area of your life. The personal life and the professional life both actually they they uh, they complement each other, or they can be a detriment to each other, right?
Mhm. You're
And I
right.
think I think a lot of times it's the priorities. They say time management. I've coached people that say, okay, I have a problem with time management. And I'm like, well, no, you don't have a problem with time management, because time cannot be managed. It's a priority management,
Mhm.
right? Where are your priorities?
It is.
Um, and
And what are
sometimes
your
that,
values?
what's
Those
that?
and what are your values? That's so
Yes.
important, and that all goes into what you think is the most important, um, and how to spend that time.
Jerry says, let me pop her up here. Jerry says that goals, everyone has different goals. And if you're hungry to grow, it's a fine line to our generation. Yes, yes. So true, Jerry, so true. And I love, but that reminds me, who does that remind you of, that quote there a little bit? What Jerry just said. Get be hungry.
Oh, that Les Brown?
Les Brown. You got to
Yes.
be hungry. You got to be, Les says, you got to be hungry. You got to be
Yes.
hungry. So
He
fantastic.
certainly, shows us how he has done, how that's worked for him in his life.
Yeah, he showed actual life application and breaks it down
Yes.
in his storytelling and stuff, and
Yeah.
so amazing. But yeah, that's so true, Jerry. Thank you so much for that. And goes. And do people know how to say goes? Folks, if you join me every day, I talk about goes many times. What does that look like? And
Mhm.
if you don't take control of your calendar, somebody else will, and they usually don't have anything on it that's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit them.
That's
Um,
right.
Another thing they talk about when quietly quitting, when that started happening, uh, and it was fueled by social media a lot. When everything is fueled. A lot of, in fact, this generation gets most of their news on social media, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sure which is worse, social media or mainstream media. Is it all news or propaganda? But but when people started doing this quietly quitting at work, well, then employers started coming up with quietly firing,
Yes.
you know? In other words, they can't fire you, so what they'll do is they'll overwhelm you enough to where you want to quit, and you go ahead and quit. So if you're a subpar performer and you think you're just gonna do the bare minimums and get by and they can't fire you, they can throw a lot more on you to get rid of you. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, because you've already shown yourself, you're not willing to put in the effort and the money. But it made me think, because your perspective of this made me really think, if employees will quietly quit on their job because that I guarantee they invest more time into their personal life, they're probably doing it on the clock, actually.
Yeah, I could say that's very true for some
Employ
people.
Yeah. Well, if you can quietly quit, employers can quietly fire. So
Mhm.
something for you to think about, if you're watching this and you're just doing the bare minimums just to keep from getting fired, if they start throwing some more stuff on you, you can already figure the fox is in the hen house and he's just waiting for you. Okay.
Mhm.
So your head could be on the chopping block soon. So you got to keep that in mind. But that made me think, as your perspective is, could our families
That's
quietly
yeah.
fire us?
Or are we doing, I can't get it out of my mouth right. So are we quietly quitting on our family, like you said, and the time that we spend, where our priorities are, how are they feeling about that, And
Mhm,
you maybe have heard it, that someone's asking for more of you than what you're giving, because you are set up to give, give, give. Those of us that are very hard workers and have strong work ethics, that's something we have to get in check when we're
mhm,
giving too much. It's not always the employer that's asking of us. It's sometimes that we just see the amount of work and what needs to be done and the standard. When we have a high standard for something, we really want to give and pour into that so that it's right. But the number one priority that we should have is our families. Well, the
mhm.
number one priority is our God, right? And
Right.
is what we're doing taking away from that time even. Um,
I would
and
say
then
it's
our
faith, family, finances, in that
yeah,
order.
faith.
Faith,
Yeah, I like
family,
that.
finances.
And but sometimes we get all of that all out of whack, and we don't even sometimes realize what we're doing. But we have, with our strengths, we can overuse or underuse those. And so we will want to have the right strength at the right time for the right reason in the right amount. So for someone like me who's very persistent, I have to rein that in, because I can give, 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 and I
Mhm.
and I will stick in there with it, if I've got this project or a goal at work, but what am I doing? I'm not getting home maybe as soon as I could have if I'd walked out like everyone else did when it was the end of the time to, to go. Um, but we need to get that in check, and we need to realize what part of it is our that we need to own, that's not our employer, but it's ourself, and get that back to where it needs to be. So, um, you know, in the
Yeah.
spirit of asking for a friend, what's one thing we can do, that to take one step toward our goals, that we have, or the goal of being more present with our family.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's been a great talk. And so we've been on this about 21 minutes, and so I'm doing pretty good. Actually, shorter talk with you than if it's just me by myself. We know how much I can go on and on and on, right?
Mhm.
But so w- tell us. So we got the topic out of the way. Why don't you share with the audience more about who Katrina Goff is? And I should have done this at the very beginning of this, but we'll catch it on the
We can.
tail end of it. So introduce yourself to audience, and remember that some of these people are going to be on this and watch this like years from now. So tell them who Katrina Goff is.
Oh my goodness. Who is Katrina Goff? Katrina Goff, I would say, is a lifelong learner. She's passionate about ways to improve herself and to help others as well. Um, my degree is in psychology, and I was taking a course many years ago in social psychology, and I came across this term post traumatic growth, which literally reading that word changed my whole trajectory in life. I was working with the military, and I often heard about PTSD and saw the results in my patients of um, them accepting that label. And when I heard about post traumatic growth, I really knew I had to share that with others. And so I've done some work with Wellness for Warriors and police and fire departments, and I've been able to incorporate that into other things I do. It sent me on on a journey to find a positive psychology course, which is where I first learned about it, um, as part of that process, and psychology in general. We just don't always hear the more um, the part of psychology that leads us to optimal human flourishing. But
Mhm.
I found this course, which is called the CAP Certificate in Applied Positive Psychology. And I took that. And then I went on with the Flourishing Center, and also got became a certified resilience trainer. And so I've used those tools when I taught college at a career college. I taught dental assisting, and I've used it when managing dental clinics and working in the hospital and helping people to be able to show up when they didn't feel like they could, and to work through challenges.
Mhm.
It's helped me in my own life. We all can have stress and some challenges, and it helps me I've got a tool chest of things I could use, but I love sharing those tools with others. But yeah, I'm a member of the John Maxwell team. Joined that after you did, and so we together do that as well. And as you see, that Chief Wellbeing Officer of JKG Consulting, that is the term I chose for myself, because I really do want to focus on the resilience and positive psychology part of our business. That's kind of the lane that I am super passionate about, reaching those organizations and people who could use those tools to help them achieve their goals in a way. Working with strengths rather than weaknesses is one of the ways that I can do some of those things.
And it's funny that we both are certified to one in these different programs, not only so we can serve others well, but it's actually served us well.
Oh, absolutely.
The information, the knowledge, the experience, the connections with the people in our communities that we're both involved with. John Maxwell community, you and your positive psychology community, our veteran community. Which is what I want to talk about a little bit is when you talk about post traumatic growth, right? And I don't know if you mentioned
Mhm.
that, but PTG, post-traumatic growth, right? Um, Share with our audience, um, a little bit about that experience that you had when you were, taking care of our troops at Fort
Mhm.
Leonard Wood. Tell and that kinda inspired you,
Oh, it did. Yes.
big time. So share
Um,
that story. That's always a beautiful story. Share that.
I was working in a dental clinic at Fort Leonard Wood, and so we took care of the dental needs of our patients and kept them deployable so that they could go out and keep us safe. And I have so much respect for our service members. And as I was bringing a patient back, I'll never forget him. He was a drill sergeant, and I brought him back, and he was sitting in my chair, and he said, "Ma'am, I just have to tell you, I have PTSD. I might hit the floor if I hear a loud noise." Loud noises happen in dental clinics, and you know, some of our troops have been deployed multiple times. I'm talking 6 and 8 times by the time I left in 2013. So there are some people that I know deployed more times than that after that. But I had just watched this service member who came in, with his posture, his shoulders back and presenting himself with confidence. And when those words came out of his mouth that he had PTSD, then he just shrunk in my chair. And I had saw that, I witnessed it so many times with so many service members. And he was the first service member that came in and sat in my chair after I learned about post traumatic growth, and I was all in. I knew it was needed, and I was like, people don't know about this. They don't know this is an option. They take this label of post traumatic stress disorder, and they think that's all that they have, that that's what's going to be stuck with them forever. And we've learned so much about that since I first knew about post traumatic growth. But so I just saw this little opportunity, and I asked this gentleman, I said, "Sir, have you ever heard of post traumatic growth?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Well, I'd really like you to look it up." And he sat there in a minute and he said, "Ma'am, can you tell me about it?" And I said, "Oh, I absolutely can." And that was my opportunity, my foot in the door, the very first time I shared about post traumatic growth. And I said, post traumatic growth um, is something that can happen not in spite of, but because of those, either traumatic event or something challenging, really challenging that happened to us. And with that, it can show up in ways like meaning and purpose, and a greater meaning and purpose that we wouldn't have had we not experienced whatever that event was, and greater connections to our family members or others around us, a sense of community, of being part of something bigger than yourself, and gratitude for life in general. And so these are some of the ways it showed up. And I'll never forget that service member, because he was sitting in my chair, and just as he had shrunk all down and had lost all confidence, he said, "Ma'am," he got so excited, it was in his voice. He said, "Ma'am, I've got that. I think I've got that." And he was a drill sergeant. So he told me that he now, because he was in an IED attack, he could now help his young troops to learn how to look for that and avoid that in a way. Can't always be avoided, but he had some tools and some knowledge that he would not have had otherwise. And he just lit up. That was so inspiring to me. And I thought, people need this. It has to get out there more than what it was. And at that point in time, we believe that some people that experienced a traumatic event either had post traumatic growth, some had no change at all, and some had post traumatic stress disorder. We now know that actually, as the research has evolved, that you can sometimes have both. Um, but I believe that when you knew how it shows up, that we can build it. And so that's what I teach, or how to build those areas in your life to police departments, fire departments, military. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. You could tell I was kinda playing around a little bit with the, display and stuff and the theme, so, I was like, "That big blue bubble's just a little too big for us, so let me minimize that." But folks, I did put her contact information right there, scrolling on the bottom. If you want to learn more about your person, how to develop a greater personal life and your perspectives and your priorities in your life and how to change your mindset. One of her strengths is perspectives, but also more about the post-traumatic growth. And I have shared that with veterans, myself being a veteran, 26 years military service, and you serving our veterans at Fort Leonard for quite some time. Thank you so much for your service
Mhm.
to our troops. But when I shared, I'd never heard of post-traumatic growth until I heard it from you. And when I started sharing that with guys, because I've ran into a lot of veterans, and you have two that have experienced PTG or PTSD. Um, it was the same thing. Their eyes lit up. They're like, "Wow, I never heard of that. I've never heard of
Mhm.
that." And see, a lot of times we can't grow, we can't become what we want to become until we put a label on it. And as soon as we put a label on it, say, "Oh, okay," right?
Mhm.
So the label, instead of the PTSD, let's grab that PTG label. Let's put that on. Let's put that
Mhm.
big cloak on, and let's grow and learn from the experiences, and then share those experiences, because people need to hear those experiences. They need to learn. They need to grow,
Hope.
and it helps them. So thank you so much for. I want to make sure we talked about that, and so we're at 32 minutes now. So let's go for an hour. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. But anyway, thank you so much, folks. Katrina, you have anything else you want to say to our audience before we sign off?
Um, I think just maybe one more little thing is with character strengths that I talked about how we can overuse or underuse our strengths, and you may not realize that those strengths are what um, can help you to reach those goals that maybe you're have been diverting to work, and maybe you need to divert some of those strengths into that project or that book you want to write, or maybe spending more time with your family. Whatever it is, your character strengths can help you do that. And I'm happy to also, if they reach out to me and want to know, take that character strength survey, then it might also help them to realize how they're using those and maybe overusing them in some areas as
Yeah.
well. I definitely have that ability to do that as well. So we want to keep those in the right priorities there. So
So not only do you preach what you teach, but you also practice what you teach, and
yeah.
you experience some of the
Yeah,
things that.
and I, yeah, I help myself to realize, "Hey, I need to tone that one down a little bit."
Yeah, yeah. Okay, folks, that's what we got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with my very first guest on the J Talk Morning Show. Thank you, Katrina, for being on. I appreciate that so much, and being the one to dip your toe in the water here to test this, because a lot of our friends do this all the time. We have a lot of friends do podcasts, and they're very familiar with this. But we jumped in, and we've been doing videos for a long time. But to do this like this is different for us, and so exciting. So folks, if you enjoyed this talk today, if you got something from this, go ahead and shoot her an email and say, "Hey, attaboy," leave a comment here if you want to learn more
Don't
about
say
what.
that a boy to me.
Or don't say attaboy to her. Atta girl. Sorry, I'm not confused. I know the difference. Okay. But definitely shoot her a message or something like that. And if you want to learn more, you can leave comments on the comment section of these videos as well. Go over to this the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to the J Talk Morning Show YouTube channel. We are going to have more people on here that are experts in their field, that have walked the talk, and they can have incredible information that's going to serve you. And we're going to get Katrina back on too, probably many times actually. So get ready, Katrina. All right, friends. God bless each and every single one of you. And hey, you know what? That's it. I think that's a successful show. What do you think?
I think.
Okay, yeah, that was for you.
Yeah, it was a little delayed there, but yes, I think it was.
Yes. Okay, all right. All right, my friends, God bless you. Hey, remember what we always say on the J Talk Morning Show. You've got to get up, get out, and get at it, because the world needs exactly who you are and what you have to offer. All right, my friends, God bless you. Bye-bye.